We are live on ABC's KMET 1490 AM.com. Your number one spot right here for news and talk on the West Coast. I thank everyone for tuning in this morning. On the telephone line, I welcome to the program a former Major League Baseball pitcher for the 1970 National League Eastern Division champion, Pittsburgh Pirates. We welcome in Fred Cambria. Fred, Brian C., honor to have you.
Brian, pleasure. Thanks so much for inviting me.
Oh, my pleasure, Fred. My pleasure. You know, Fred, I was thinking about this. 22 is a lucky number for you in that you broke into the majors when you were 22. Your birthday is January 22nd. And St. Leo College retired your jersey, number 22, a few years ago. Has that ever crossed your mind?
You think I should play the lottery tonight?
Number 22, lucky number.
22, yeah. That's always been my great number. When I got to Pittsburgh, I had no choice. I was just glad to get there. So they gave me 36, and I was very happy.
Man, you know, I mentioned St. Leo College because it was there that your coach at the time, Bill Mayer, was such an instrumental figure in your talent development, right?
He sure was. When I went down to St. Leo's as a freshman, the baseball coach was the basketball coach. He didn't know much about it, but he gave me a great opportunity to pitch in college. And I did well, my first year, but he really didn't teach me anything, and that was fine. So he promised me at the end of the season that I'm bringing in a new coach who's a great baseball coach, pitching instructor, and he brought in Mr. Bill Myers from Chicago. And Bill turned me around in a short period of time, and I was doing some basic things wrong, throwing across myself, short-arming the ball and things like that, and Bill corrected me right away, and from then on I did pretty well.
And not only were you a pitcher, I mean, you were some hitter.
Yes, I was always a pretty good hitter, all the way through, and if I didn't pitch that game in college, I would play first base. And so I got the chance to use the stick, and I really enjoyed it. I think at one time after I got released 5 years later, I was thinking about going back as a shortstop, believe it or not, because I do feel I could hit above the Mendoza line.
Right. Yeah. Now, Fred, were you part of that '69 team that defeated the Division I Florida State?
I beat him that year. Yeah.
You beat him that year, right?
Yeah, in '69, I had a good game, and I hit a home run, and I think there was about 30 scouts in attendance, and because it was Florida State, but that got me on the right path. And then, but that's not the real story. The real story is a gentleman from Duke University, Tom Butters. He was the athletic director. He was a pitcher for the Pittsburgh Pirates years ago. And how I found this out was Steve Blass, one of our pitchers who pitched that great seventh game of the World Series. Steve had me over, and he said, "Hey, you know how you got to the Pirates?" I said, "I had no idea." Well, he said, my roommate was Tom Butters, and he got in a small accident, but he hurt his neck, and he couldn't pitch anymore. So he became the athletic director at Duke University, and he was the baseball coach. And they came down to beat up on us a little bit, a small little Catholic school, and we turned that around a little bit, So Tom recommended me to Mr. Joe Brown, who was the general manager of the Pirates, and that's how I got with the Pirates. So it's an amazing story, Brian. It only takes one,
Yeah, it is. And you also made some historic headlines at SLU. I mean, your name will forever be cemented at SLU. And that you were tell me if this is correct, you were the first player ever to be drafted to a pro organizational team, right?
In St. Leo, yes, that's correct. Yes.
In St. Leo, yeah. So that's so your name will always forever be cemented with that school. Now, '69, Fred, big year for you, draft day. Can you talk? Where were you at the time? How did you get the call? Take us back to that '69, the big year for you.
Well, what happened was I tried out with the Mets the day before. They invited me to Shea Stadium at that time, and I pitched, and I pitched pretty good. You know, I pitched well, and the scouts were there. It was a small tryout, maybe 10 or 12 guys, and, you know, I did the pitching, and they came up to me after it, and they said, well, we really like you. I've heard this story before. I really like you, but we're going to draft you very high, maybe 1 or 2. And so I went home that night on cloud 9, didn't sleep in a wink because I loved the Mets. I was always a Met fan. And sure enough, I get up 9 o'clock waiting for the phone to ring, and never rang. About 10:30, I get a phone call. I said, wow, maybe this is it. And sure enough, it was the Pittsburgh Pirates. And to be honest with you, I was so deflated at the time. It was crazy. And then so he said, are you pitching tonight? I said, yes, I am. So they came out, the 2 top scouts. I don't know if you remember Howie Hake, who was in charge of our international area. He signed Sanguillen, Cash, Stennett, all our Latin players. And he came out, and he liked me, and he came to my house and made an offer to my folks because I had 1 year left of school, and it was good. And so I took the Pirates, and I left school. But I went back to get my degree in political science.
Yeah, I mean, a dream come true. I mean, what so many college, amateur athletes can only dream of happened to you, getting drafted by the Pittsburgh Pirates. I mean, you must have been on cloud 9.
Oh, I was. I sure was. And they sent me right to Double-A. And, it was either make it or break it, at 21 at that time. And I did very well. But the true story how I got recognized was when I was in Double-A. I was in York and Eastern League, a very good league, by the way. So I had older players with me, Brian, came back from the AAA or the big leagues. And they, coming from a small school, I wasn't in tune with a lot of baseball lingo and things like that. And these guys really took me by the wing and really matured me in the baseball sense very well, showed me little tricks and things like that.
Right. And so 69 Double-A, you're playing for York under Coach Joe Morgan. And that was, if I believe, that was a short-lived team. I think it only lasted 2 years, the Double-A York Pirates, right?
Yes, that's correct. I was there the second year. I didn't know how many years it was before that, but we played in basically an abandoned baseball, maybe a high school or something like that at that time. Bleachers. It was nice. It was nice, but the living conditions were not the best. There was no condos at that time in 69. I lived on top of a bar. So I couldn't go to bed till after 2 o'clock because they had music every night, which is amazing. And I paid $5 a night to stay there, So welcome to Major League Baseball,
Yeah, welcome. But now 69, the York team, they were champions that year.
Yeah, we won that year, yes. And we had a good team, a very good team. We had a few guys that go there. Angel Manguel was the big star, if you remember him. Yep. Angel was supposed to be the next Roberto Clemente, and we had an excellent team. Yeah, we really did. We had good pitching, and it worked out well. But the funny part about that, I'm sorry. You had good pitching. You had yourself, Lynn Fitzer, and Frank Brosseau, if I believe correctly. Frank was a great pitcher, and he had a great slider. And I'm just trying. Lynn Fitzer. We had a few that Killingsworth. We also had Gene Garber a short time.
Oh,
remember
wow.
Gene Garber?
Yeah. And you did good that year. I think your record was 9-2 with a 2.16 ERA.
Yeah, I had a good season. And the funny story about that is Tim Murtaugh, Danny's son, was our catcher. Mm-hmm. And he was more of a veteran player. I don't think he had aspirations for the major leagues or anything like that. He was older, probably late 20s or 30s. And he invited his father to come to the game that night. I didn't know that. And I pitched a perfect game that game. And I think that gave me a lot of recognition there, from the stand. It was only my fourth start. So it was an eye-opening experience. And then, they wanted to move me up to AAA before I went back to school. But Joe Brown came and said, hey, listen, school is more important at this time, and go back to school, get your degree. And you know who the coach was on that? Was Don Hoke, who passed away.
Really?
He was the coach of AAA, and he was supposed to get the Pirate job because Danny still had heart problems. So he was out, and Don Hoke got killed in an automobile accident. So I never did meet the man, So it's a small world.
Yeah, it is a small world. So now, it's 1970. You're playing for AAA for the Columbus Jets. I mean, that team that also had a good squad. I mean, you have Milt May, Ron Davis was on the team. What was your experience like at AAA playing for the Columbus Jets?
Well, in the beginning, it was not good, Brian. I don't know. I never get intimidated, but I started out 0-4, and boy, I got hit hard all those 4 games. And I don't know what it was. It wasn't me. So we were up in Buffalo, and Joe Brown said he was coming. So I said, well, I'm going back to AA. And Joe and Howie Hake was there, that international scout. And I pitched. I won, but I pitched okay. And Joe called me over and said, listen, and I said, oh, I can't wait to get on the bus again, But Joe said, hey, I saw you pitch before. We're keeping you here, and just pitch the way you can pitch. And after that, I was 12-2. And that's how I got called up to the big leagues.
We're talking with Fred Cambria, who played 1 year for the Pittsburgh Pirates. But Fred, it was such a historic year. Again, you're there in a historic situation. I mean, as fate would have it for you, the 70 Pittsburgh Pirates resulted in the team winning their first National League Eastern Division title. So that must have been very, very exciting at the time for you.
Oh, very exciting. I mean, I pitched some key games for him out in San Diego. Fortunately, we lost 2-1. And, it's funny when you're a pitcher, you remember a lot of situations. And I pitched good, and a little, I guess, punch and Judy hitter, as you call him. Eddie Spezio hit a home run on me, and I lost it, and 2-1. And then the next game, San Francisco, we lost that one. But I didn't get the decision on that. And then they pitched me every 4th day. So, and my last one at the end, I guess when we clinched the pennant, I pitched against Seaver. We won that game.
Right, and I want to get to that. But, I want to know how, August 26th, you made your debut. It was against the San Diego Padres, if I believe correct. Right. How is that? I mean, being on a professional mound for the first time, I mean, your adrenaline must have been very high that day.
Well, it's a funny thing. I was shaking flies. I didn't know I was going to pitch. Doc Ellis was supposed to pitch that night, and for some reason, Doc hurt himself or he couldn't pitch. So one of the bat boys came down and said, Fred, Danny wants to see you. I said, oh, no. Because Danny didn't say too much, Danny Murtaugh. So he came in, he said, son, you're pitching tonight. Go get ready. And this was probably 40 minutes before the game. And that's what happened. And I got in. I wasn't nervous because he called me in so late. I didn't think about it. And that was it. So when I got on that mound, I really wasn't nervous for some reason. I can remember everything about it. But it was just one of those things that I felt I was ready to pitch in a big league game.
And I mean, the 1970 Pirates, of course, had the great Roberto Clemente. I mean, did you get along with Roberto?
Well, I was his adopted son. Two gentlemen took me under their wing, Willie Stargell and Roberto, and they just treated me just like a son. and I was so pleased. And they would take me out to eat. They would talk baseball, and I had a locker next to Clemente. You know, Clemente had 4 lockers or something. I had one little cubicle, but that was fine. And we got along very well. And the only way I can describe Roberto Clemente and Willie Stargell, they were better people than they were baseball players, both of them.
Wow. I mean, just being around Clemente and, people like Bill Mazeroski and like you mentioned, Willie Stargell, Matty Alou. I mean, these are, iconic names in baseball.
I know. I mean, I'm just, I'm the 25th guy on the team, and I realize that. But you're playing with these great superstars. I mean, it was a treat. But all these guys were nicer than I can't say enough about them. And we still talk today. Unfortunately, some of the guys, some have passed on. But no, I had a 50th anniversary, just playing baseball, and all these guys called me up, congratulating me. And it was just like before the family. It was just the same way before. And I think those gentlemen, 3 guys, Mazeroski, who was very quiet, Stargell had his own way of taking care of things, and so did Roberto. And they led me by example, and it was a great couldn't ask for a better gentleman taking care of you,
Oh, man, unbelievable. Now, you mentioned Tom Seaver. You went head-to-head against Tom Seaver.
Yeah, I went head-to-head in the second game. Kuzma beat us the first game 4-1 or something, and I came, and I wasn't nervous for one reason. Again, I don't know. My folks were there. They had all my friends. And but, when you get on that mound, honestly and truly, Brian, all you see is a signal, and you get to it. You don't hear the crowd noise at all. It's really hard to believe that it is that way.
And that battle against Seaver, the record books say that you outpitched him. I mean, you actually outpitched Seaver 5 1/3 inning.
Yeah. Well, what happened, it was a couple of errors there, in that week, and it was a key game for us, and we lost that one. We're in trouble as far as the last week of the season is concerned. So, unfortunately, Danny took me out, and I was pitching good, and my ball was moving, and some of the hits they got were just, my ball moved a lot. And but anyway, I'm glad. I wasn't glad. Danny took me out, but I wanted to finish more because but when you're a rookie like that, you don't act like Bob Gibson and say, hey, you're not getting the ball, So I was glad to give him up, and unfortunately, a few of our pitchers, Justy and Hernandez or whatever, came in, and we tied the score, and then Stargell hit a home run in the 10th inning to seal the victory for us. Yeah.
I mean, that's incredible. I mean, here you are, Fred Cambria, outpitching the reigning Cy Young Award winning pitcher Tom Seaver 5 1/3 inning. I mean, you could sleep good at night after that, the performance, I tell you.
Well, what's funny about that, that was the first time that the fans booed Seaver. And, we had a packed house because they were still in a race. I mean, we had one more week to go, and it was very tight. And they brought a lot of old guys in, Dean Chance and stuff like that, to, take care of the pitching. And so it was a big game for us, and Danny had enough confidence in me to do that, and it gave me that extra confidence to go out and do a good job and be, for 5 innings there. Yeah.
So that 1970 NLCS, did you feel that the Pirates had a chance against the Reds?
Oh, sure. I mean, the Big Red Machine was just, they were tough, and the games we lost at that time, Brian, it was 2 out of 3. It was 2 out of 3, and no, maybe not. I'm sorry, because they won all 3 games, Cincinnati against us. The first game, Doc pitched a great game, Doc Ellis, and here was another gentleman that he got a lot of I guess things said about him because of the LSD and things like that. But you couldn't ask for a better teammate. He was just phenomenal. And the minute he crossed those lines, boy, he'd give you 1,000%. So I have a lot of respect for Doc, and he really did a good job. And he unfortunately lost that game. We lost it in extra innings. Doc pitched, I think, the whole thing. He did that well. And then second game, I think they blew us out a little bit, and same with the third game. And that was it. I was in the bullpen twice, all three times, but I never got in, So we had a veteran called Joe Simmons. No, Gibson. What's his name? Joe Gibbons. Joe Gibbons. Who was around the major leagues like 15 years, a little lefty. And so he got a call a few times because of being a veteran on that, and I understood that, but I was ready, But it was a great experience in the playoffs at that time because we would have played the Orioles that year, and I think we would have had a good chance of beating them, But there was always next year, and they won in 71.
Right. And then, so 73 comes along, I have a few minutes left. 73 comes along, and that's it. You retire from baseball.
I did. I got released the next year, and I went to the Yankees. My good friend Ronnie Blumberg was with the big club at that time, and I always did well against the Yankees or the Syracuse team and New Hampshire team, and he called George Pfister, the farm director, and he signed me right away to Double-A. I was doing very well, and all of a sudden they get a call. They want me to relief, and I was very spotty. Didn't do well. I never relieved before in my life, and not make excuses, but I didn't do well. And so after, if you remember, Doc Edwards was the manager at that time, a great guy. He was a catcher for the Cincinnati. And I went to the front of the bus, and I said, Doc, what do you think? He says, Fred, I think it's time. And I said, you know what, Doc? I think the same thing, and just can't perform the way I would like to. And he said, and with that bit of advice, I had a great career after that, But I give him a lot of credit, be straightforward, and that's what you want to hear,
Right, and then after your professional baseball career, just reading your biography here, you became baseball coach at St. Leo's.
I did. I had a job before that as a salesman for Izod, the Izod shirts, and I got that, and that was a very fortunate thing. It was a great job, and all of a sudden it was bought out by General Mills with the Alligator. If you're familiar with it, it was very hot at that time. But they sold the company, and I lost my job. So I went back to baseball, and I coached, and I really enjoyed it. It was a terrific experience, and plus your alma mater, so which is even better. And I love the school. It's been so good to me, and I learned a lot about coaching and baseball, believe it or not, And just because you played, Brian, doesn't mean you know everything, and I had a gentleman who was in the Yankee organization called Frank Verdi, and he coached in the minor leagues for 30 years in AAA, and he never got to the big leagues. He never got along with Ralph Houck, he told me, and he never could get to the big leagues. But to make a long story short, he helped me tremendously, and he just taught me the game. And he always asked me after the game, why'd you do this? Why'd you do that? He never gave me an answer. He just made me make up my mind why I did what I did, So it was very interesting, and unfortunately Frank passed away, but he was a great inspiration in me learning the game of baseball.
Now, did you enjoy being an instructor for the Padres?
Yes, I did. I enjoyed it very much. It was an A team. Joe McIlvain was the general manager at that time with the San Diego. I know Joe from New York. And Jack LeMahieu, an old pitcher, he got sick or hurt, and I took over the Spokane team for 2 years. And I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was great experience, teaching experience. And these kids was high. It was high A. That was the best A team, and for 2 years I really enjoyed it. It was very nice.
And my final question, I mean, I want to congratulate you because you were inducted into the Suffolk Sports Hall of Fame in Long Island. It must be a good feeling. I mean, you're a Hall of Famer, Fred.
Wish I was about 150 miles up the river in New York, but that's okay. Listen, one of the great things, Brian, I gave it 100%, and I look back and kids today, they dog it or whatever. And as long as I know I gave 100%, I feel great about myself. And, things happen, and I realize that. But I had a great career after that, and I'm very happy to be in the Suffolk Hall of Fame. It's quite an honor.
Well, listen, I really appreciate it, Fred. Thanks for coming on. Hopefully we can do this again in the near future.
Anytime, Brian. Just give me a buzz, and be glad to do it.
All right, thank you so much.
I got
Appreciate
more stories. Trust me.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you. You're pictured on two rookie cards, 1971 and 1972.
Right.
So you have two rookie cards out there.
Yeah, I don't know how that happened, to be very honest with you. But just a quick story. It was in spring training, and the Tops guy was there. So I said, can I get some Tops? He said, what's your name? And I told him. He said, oh, you're on a card this year. Well, I got dressed in about 2 seconds. I had $5 in my pocket. I went to 7-Eleven, $5 worth. At that time, I think they were a quarter. And I'm sweating, and the car was probably 90 degrees. And I finally saw my card. It was one of the greatest things I ever experienced, seeing yourself on the baseball card, because I used to flip them and put them on my spokes as a kid, and now you're on there. And I still get cards today. Get about 2 or 3 a week to sign, and it's my pleasure.
I mean, that's awesome. I mean, you're not only on one, you're actually, there's two rookie cards of Fred Cambria. So for the fans listening, go out and get your Fred Cambria rookie baseball cards, 1971, 1972 Tops.
Okay, I will. Okay. Thank
All
you,
right,
Brian.
thanks so much.
All the pleasure. Thank you. Right.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Fred Cambria. Until next week, happy collecting to all.